That was certainly a signature win for Cal, and it's 42-year-old head coach Jeff Tedford. Suddenly the NFL took notice, but last summer Tedford said no thanks to the Chicago Bears to stay with his Bears. That's an intriguing decision when you consider this coach's unique and difficult life journey. You think inheriting a 1-10 team freaked him out? Now, the football rags to riches story was nothing compared to how far Tedford's coaching gifts have taken Tedford the man. Now, he downplays it all, but taking his number 7 team into this place against number 1 is certainly a special chapter in his life for a man of very humble beginnings. Tom Rinaldi has the story.
On the field, you don't see the alcoholic father who left him. At practice, you don't see the warehouse he lived in. In games, you don't see the pockets that were empty. But they're all part of Jeff Tedford and connect him to players in ways few coaches can.
You can sit there and tell them that, hey, I may be the head coach here, but you know, I've had problems in my life too.
Now in the sun, surrounded by his team, it isn't easy to see the problems, but they were there in the story he tells every incoming freshman.
Growing up, you know, I was from a single-parent home. You know, my mother and father divorced at an early age. You know, there was some alcoholism in the family. I didn't really know my dad after I was 9 years old. Didn't spend much time around him.
Instead, Tedford spent time alone, growing up on the streets in Downey, California. Football was the only constant as he headed to junior college with little to rely on, including any place to call home.
I lived in my brother's warehouse. He had a board-up service. I lived in the office part of his warehouse, which was great. I mean, it was not bad. I mean, it wasn't, you know, you don't have to feel sorry for me about that. It was a good place. It was clean to live. You know, didn't have a shower or anything, so I had to go to school to shower. But I was trying to just kind of find, you know, make ends meet from time to time. Because I had to work part-time jobs or whatever, and just to try to survive.
Then, as now, football was his survival. It led him across stadiums from California to Canada, and eventually to coaching, a career that began in poverty.
I left the CFL and came back to be a volunteer assistant coach at Fresno State, and had a wife and a kid, and didn't make a dime the whole year, and had spent all the money that we had, and was down to nothing. And I'll never forget the day that we were walking to the store, my wife and I and our little baby, and we wanted to get this certain kind of cookies, and we couldn't afford to get it. And I just remember walking home that night thinking, man, I got to do something here.
More than a decade later, in his first head coaching job, Tedford has done something no one thought possible at Cal, inheriting a 1-10 team in 2001 and placing them in the top 10 3 years later. He has incentives to pay him $1 million a year or more now. But with that success, with players who view him as a father and a mentor, he still pays a price at home, as he's done most of his life. How often do you see your own family during the season?
Well, I see them on Thursday nights and on Sunday morning, and Saturday night after the game, and Sunday morning before I come to work.
But what is toughest about that for you?
Well, just not being there to see my kids at night, you know, and not seeing my wife, you know, and being there for her to help her in anything she needs help with. She is like a single parent through the season. There's no question about it. I mean, I'm not home myself, but my kids understand. They know that we're in this as a family. You know, they have as much invested in this as I do.
You know, Tedford considered a godfather by quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Jeff MacArthur, the receiver, has a very special relationship. Tedford actually gave MacArthur a kiss after the Stanford game. It symbolized a big moment in his career after some tough beginnings. And, you know, coaches for Cal get together after the warm-up, kind of have a group hug, wish each other luck. It's nice.